people would say that's a girl cycle. But I'm like, I have a 19-year-old here who has huge potential. Why would I burn him out right away?
Bodybuilding coach and podcast host.
I always thought like, oh shit, like maybe I'm addicted. Maybe I could never get off steroids. But then I went off for half a year and I was bike riding. And
we got Leo Mayrhofer.
The reference range does not always mean if you're out of the range. That's concerning. For example, so how much test do you take? 1 vial a week.
Damn.
If you look at Instagram sometimes and you see those pictures and people by themselves, you're like, whoa. But then on stage, it's so different. When your body's rejecting something, even though your coach says this is magic food, then maybe for you, it's not the magic food. No one's like, I'm doing 300 milligrams of test for life. Why would someone do that and then claim natural? A lot of people are on gear before, get off, then claim natural, do natural shows. You really eat that? I would rather puke it out again. You can be the most shredded, but if you're mega nervous, you're probably going to spill a little bit.
What are the craziest stacks that you've ever heard of? Before starting this podcast, I just wanted to say that ideating steroids for a full show is not widely accepted because it discounts the real work, which is the backbone of this sport. And unfortunately spreads that an unsafe chemical solution is all you need for results. Both of these are antithetical to society's understanding of the sport. And while there will always be some that claim that PEDs are all you need, I would like to deliver an honest message of what is required for achieving top performance, as well as the dangers associated with this route. I received this comment from a user named Nightscarens. But just as a rock climber, the athletes undergoing this path in the sport are willing to put their life on the line for their passion. Just the danger between the two sports is different. Luckily, we do have safety nets in the sport, such as organ imaging and regular blood work. But that doesn't change the high risk one must accept in taking on this competitive lifestyle.
Mic check, 1 2 1 2.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, say something again.
My name is Leo.
Nice.
I'm fat.
Shut up. All right.
Okay.
It's bulking season. It's
Yeah.
a big ass difference. But before we start, I wanted to ask. You said you just you kind of have farts with your protein farts, but you always have you don't have any digestion issues with anything else, right? Including berberine.
Pretty good.
Is there any time that you ever had any digestive issues?
Not really. I'm pretty blessed. But you know what? I think it's also because I grew up in Europe and we have such good food. I never ate shit. My parents always, even in Europe, bought really good food. So I think that's kind of set me up pretty well. And maybe that's to my benefit. I never drink any diet soda anymore. None. So I never drink any soda. And I think that helps, man.
No.
And then
don't say that.
And then sometimes I do a little bit for my digestion. So I drink kefir sometimes. And now I want to find good sauerkraut and actually some good sausage, even though it's fat. But it's really good for digestion both. But just if
why is sausage good for digestion?
Any fermented food is really good.
Oh, okay.
And I like that.
Not just straight.
I like that combination.
Sausage, you're saying, right?
No, not like that shit. Like these Polish sausages, from the butcher, nothing.
Okay.
No shit in a can or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No Vienna sausages.
No, they're horrible. Yeah.
Oh man, but I love those.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah, no.
But you say you like ham better for rather than chicken for
But that's
even for
taste
bulking.
wise because I like
just
eggs.
taste-wise.
I love eating eggs, and ham and eggs is just better than ham and chicken.
Have you ever noticed, and you haven't ever noticed any differences when it comes to bodybuilding, when it comes to cosmetics or physique or anything with any clients?
Oh, my clients, I give them a choice most of the times. Do whatever you want within your calories. When it comes to your meat source, so I just give them a fat percentage. So I say if you want to eat, beef, then just go over 95%. So 5%, 3%, something like that. Turkey, same. And if you want to eat pork, same. Just have it lean. So the calories and the protein are roughly about the same. And go with whatever you digest well,
Okay. Yeah. I think that is a very underplayed thing that's important in bodybuilding is just what digests well. And I noticed that I noticed some coaches don't pay attention to that. And then I started working with some more experienced coaches. I work with Neil Yoda for like a second too. And it's nice to hear that like a lot of these coaches were way more inherent and way more conscious of like your digestive system. Basically, they're a little bit more malleable in terms of what kind of meats that you would choose, because they know that you probably know how you digest your food best. So it's just kind of nice to not to have a coach that's like, you fucking do this or you're out, or you do this or you listen to me or you're out.
Yeah. And also, your body gives you signals, and when your body's like kind of rejecting something, even though your coach says this is magic food, then maybe for you it's not the magic food. And some people also develop allergies when they overeat certain foods, even especially with egg whites. People that eat shit ton of egg whites, they get egg white allergies.
Damn.
And then they have big digestive issues. Happens to a lot of bodybuilders, actually. Or like, people, they have this broccoli religion, and like the coach, like, you need to eat broccoli. Like, no, you don't. Like, try some other greens, like eat some spinach, like whatever's best. Like, it's not like, the broccolis only get you shredded and the spinach won't.
Not everybody responds greatly to cruciferous vegetables.
Like I'm bad with broccoli.
Gets them a little gassy sometimes.
There's an awesome documentary on Netflix right now. It's pretty new, on your gut biome. So what's always good is introducing foods that you commonly don't eat, but just in like tiny amounts. So a little bit here and there. You add in, maybe you never eat apples and you digest them, not that great, but then just start eating a slice and taper it up. Don't change anything too quickly. Like, don't, like, even, it's probably even not that great if you switch from a average American diet, which is total crap, to bodybuilding diet, all veggies. Like your body will probably still be like, what? Because your gut biome is not used to all that. So I would even switch that, maybe not too fast.
Yeah, taper everything, right?
Yeah.
I am kind of surprised though about the. I've heard before, but I've never looked into the science of how some people can actually maybe increase their allergy to something by eating more of it. Because, obviously when someone builds a tolerance after eating it after a while, and then they stop eating the food, and I think it seems to happen pretty commonly, that then that's when they build an intolerance. Like me, for example, I used to drink milk every single meal. My parents made me drink a glass of milk with every single meal all the way up till I left the house. And that's like at least 3 cups of milk a day. And then I went to college, went to a fraternity. All the brothers would drink all the milk, so it would always be empty. And then a year later, I checked the milk container, and I'm like, holy shit, we got some milk. So I decided I wanted to have some cereal, had some, and I shat my brains out. Literally shat my brains out. I had the most miserable day. So, literally just a year of not drinking milk after drinking it so often, and it just wrecked me, dude.
But it's also that with age, usually your lactase reduces. So the older you get, the less you can, like, to digest lactose, you build lactase. So that conversion, that enzyme, you're less able to do that with age. Like, obviously everyone's different, but the tendency is there.
Yeah.
So that can also be like, you just getting older and you don't do that well. And then you could also buy some lactase, and just, there's this milk that always says lactose free. I believe a lot of that milk actually is not lactose free, and they put lactase in it. I've seen that on the back. So I think it's kind of a scam, because it's not lactase free. It's just lactose free, just the lactase enzyme is in it. But you can do that too. That might help with a lot of people also farting from whey protein and stuff, because if it's concentrate, then there's always a little lactose in there. So in Germany, brands are adding lactase to their proteins. I've not seen that here. Maybe if it's a concentrate, they should.
Gotcha.
So for people that love their concentrate, but are like, damn, I just can't digest it, just get some lactase and try it out.
Right. I wanted to ask also, before I continue, this is Leo Mayrhofer. Did I say that right?
Yeah, I mean it's a German name. It's an Austrian name, so it's called Mayrhofer. But I mean, no one says that.
Mayer.
I like if I talk to people, I always say like in America, I always say Mayrhofer or Mayrhofer. Usually, I say Mayrhofer because that's how you would pronounce it in English.
How do you say it? How do you actually pronounce it?
In German, it's Mayrhofer. Mayrhofer.
Mayrhofer.
Not bad. It's
That's
okay.
so bad.
Yeah.
All right. We got Leo Mayrhofer. I should have just stopped trying. We have Leo. He's a bodybuilding coach and podcast host that has coached many athletes to pro, such as Urs Kalecinski.
Kalecinski.
Kalecinski, dude. Kalecinski.
Yeah.
Kalecinski. Okay. Coach the Miracle Bear and various other athletes. I actually met this guy at Gold's Gym, and I know that you are connected with a lot of other bodybuilders and athletes and coaches that I know in the industry too. So that was cool to see too. I actually didn't even delve deep into your page or your podcast until like we talked recently, and I saw, who was it? Oh, you also had who was it?
Steve Weinberger.
Oh yeah, you had Steve on. That was freaking sick.
Yeah,
that's crazy. That guy, every time I see him, it gives me anxiety. I'm just like, you're just gonna dock me all these points. I'm never gonna be Mr. Olympia.
Yeah, he's a nice guy. He's a super nice guy.
Yeah,
and it's you know what's always annoying is like when you have these people on and they say some stuff and just the statement goes viral and no one says it's from your podcast. Everyone talks about it, and you're like, he could give me some credit, guys. Like I made him say it. I asked for it.
I made him say it.
Like when he said that 99% of the 99.9% of the judging is right. Mm-hmm. They're always right. 9%. Like everyone reported on it. Like I saw it everywhere, and no one said, "Oh, like we have it from this podcast," or they showed where he said it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What does he mean by that exactly? 99% of it is right.
He means like the judging is correct, like it's fair. Okay. That's what he meant. That
I see.
The judging is mostly fair.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I mean, how many judges do they have on the Olympia stage again?
I guess it's like 9 or 11 judges.
Okay.
And I think 5 or 7. I think 7 are counted.
Okay.
So they always like, so because of politics and people maybe favoring some athletes, they always cut out the 2 worst, depending on how many, and the 2 best scores for everyone.
They cut out.
Yeah. So if someone hates you and he puts you in last, but everyone else puts you first, you know, they can prevent that from counting.
Oh, whoa.
Because it's obviously, you know, just hatred. So they take the median 5.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And same if someone's like you're first, but everyone else sees you last, then the first won't count in and get you to, I don't know, 10th or so.
Ah, interesting.
So they have 11 judges and 7 are going to be scored.
Okay. Yeah, I personally believe that's a good, decent checks and balances.
Absolutely. But the problem is, I never thought about it that way, but it's just what I heard. I don't know if it's really a problem, but if they see some judges not judging in line with the other guys that maybe are new judges, they think, or some people think, that the up and coming judges are too afraid to get away from and to defer from the panel that's usually in and the already like established judges. So they try to judge just like them. So what they're looking for and what they like is going to stay the same, because the up and coming judges want to try to get in, and then they kind of judge how they think the existing top judges would judge, and not how they think, you know, it should be judged. So it's hard to, if that's the case, right? That's the theory.
Right.
Then it would be hard to, change the judging unless you have someone like Arnold say again, you need to vacuum Don't have a bottle shape, you know, and then it might change, yeah. Because I like when Arnold said that in 2018 or so.
Yeah.
They were like they judged down the bellies and they vanished.
Yeah, I noticed it was a massive change.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited for bodybuilding, man. It gets me thrilled. Gets me freaking stoked. I just want to see. I mean, honestly, at this point, the classic physique stage is already blowing my mind. Just seeing these physiques. I was
there was a new guy.
A new guy
this weekend.
Who?
Oh my god,
I missed it.
Oh my god, what's his name? Dylan. He won the Toronto Pro. He looks like a cartoon, bro. He has like no waist. Everything's thick. Everything's like sweeps and cuts. Dude, the guy's like I think he's super dangerous. I have to find out his name again.
Do you know what his ethnicity is or what it looked like?
Oh
what
my god,
background might be.
He could be a little Filipino. He does. Yeah, he's like maybe he's like half black and half Asian. Maybe something like that. His face.
I actually feel like I might have seen this. Yeah. That's why I was wondering.
I think he's all over. Like if you were on Instagram the last 2 days, you probably saw the guy.
Okay, probably. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely saw someone with some crazy shape. And I think Lex posted someone too that was competing in Classic.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that.
Sick dude.
But damn, bro, that's sick. Real quick, guys. So while I was looking at the YouTube analytics, I actually saw that 85% of you guys that watch this channel are not subscribed. And I want to ask very little of you guys, but if you enjoy this podcast, if you find value in it, then please do me this one favor and subscribe to the channel, because doing so helps me get bigger and greater guests like the guests you are listening to today. Also, this channel is not sponsored, which means only the companies that I work with, which are Young LA and Huge Supplements, are the companies that can help fund this channel by you guys using the code NILE. So code NILE gives you a discount of 15% off of Young LA, and code NILE also gives you a discount of 10% off of Huge Supplements. And if you decide to purchase anything from any of these companies, it will help immensely for me by using my code. And this way, I can travel to other guests, such as Dr. Mike Israetel next week, and also upgrade in equipment to make this podcast bigger and better for you guys. I was seeing this, I saw this TikTok pop up of, it was Jesse James posing with Ramon. Do you know?
Oh.
The show was crazy, dude. And it's like, sometimes I notice that I feel like some of the pictures on stage have, sometimes I feel like they don't really give Ramon credit. Because like, at least in this, like just straight on literally like phone video of them posing, like the bottom of Ramon's waist is literally like almost non-existent, just tapers off, which is insane because he's so 3D and round in every other part of his body. So it's just like, that would be, honestly for me, that would be my all-time goals, but don't think I can get my waist any smaller.
Dude, yeah, when you look at pro shows just on Instagram and they're so far zoomed out, and you're always like, they don't look good. And then I see everyone like, this was the Nationals. They look all like shit. Yeah. I'm like, bro, go there.
Yeah, yeah, for real, go there for sure.
Or look at now, what's great is there are some 4K videos most of the time. So first look at the shitty stage shots where 5 guys are next to each other and it's on a tiny phone and it's already zoomed out. And then look at the 4K videos from the same show and you're like, oh my God, actually look really good. But if you just see that, you're like, oh, I would have won that show. Yeah, no.
I just feel like the lighting in most of them doesn't do most people justice. At least when you like compare lighting on stage versus like lighting on Instagram and what people choose to make themselves look 3D, you know? Like I feel like the lighting on stage just, it allows you to see like all their separation and their striations, but it's not like a really hardcore like downwards lighting or anything close to that, because I think you know what I mean? Like if you see like a little bit more of a downwards lighting that has like a glare on, say like the top of your physique, like the top of your chest or the top of your shoulders, it kind of shines and like makes this 3D look, versus you go on stage, everyone gets tan and then the lights kind of just blare straight at you in a way. So normally for most of the like stage photos I see or the stage videos, you just see what their physique would look like if say I feel like someone shined almost like a ring light at you or something like that, you know? It's, to me, it looks a little bit more washed out, but maybe that's just opinionated.
Oftentimes people don't look as good on stage as they look on Instagram, but I don't know really what's the reason. I think a lot of people are also super nervous and they don't really peak, right? Because of the nerves too, because the cortisol is such an important thing. Like, you can be the most shredded, but if you're mega nervous, you're probably going to spill a little bit. Then, you know, the tan has to be good. The glaze, oftentimes people are not having enough glaze too. And some shows have really bad lighting, that's true. But some shows, I'm like, when I'm backstage and I see those guys and then I see them on stage, I'm like, oh my God, you look fat backstage.
No shit.
And on stage, you're like, you have all these cuts and you're shredded.
Oh shit.
Like, some people, for some it's different. It's so funny. Like, in the gym, you think this guy wins, and on stage, all of a sudden, it doesn't show that way at all. Mm-hmm. That's why, like, people always say that are a little bit in the game. They always tell you we have to see them next to each other. Because on Instagram, you know, like everyone said, Quentin Araya would smoke everyone. Then he showed up in New York, got 6, and like he wouldn't smoke anyone. And even like on the Menace podcast, Milos, and everyone was trying to tell Milos that Quentin, like, how can anyone beat Quentin? And Milos was kind of like a little reserved, but then he kind of said, yeah, he has everything. And then he gets 6th place, which is not bad, but it's not like smoking everyone.
Right.
So, yeah, like if you look at Instagram sometimes and you see those pictures and people by themselves, you're like, whoa. But then on stage, it's so different. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not everyone who's great on Instagram goes on stage and is still great.
Yeah, you're right. I made such an...
there's so much Photoshop. I don't know, like, what's real anymore. Because I used to look at Instagram, and I stopped doing that at all. Like, when I went to a show, I didn't even look who's coming. Don't care. Like, not going to help me. So, because when I did look, I was afraid of a few people. Before I turned pro, I looked and I'm like, oh shit, this guy's coming. And then in reality, like I'm way more shredded than you guys. Like, I was afraid, like half of them don't even look close to Instagram. And on Instagram, you're like, oh my God, no chance of winning. And in real life, you're like, yeah, should have died a little longer, you know? So it's just such a fuck up. Like, you just do you and see what's going to happen.
I did make a very generalized statement. It is very, very different for every show and every stage. So plus that, also those variables. But what are some of the first contests or the first contest mistakes that you often see? I remember you discussing this in one of your podcasts, I think.
Well, I think the worst is the posing.
Yeah.
I mean, people, like, there's people that post all the time, but they post wrong all the time. Mm-hmm. So they're like perfect in doing it wrong.
Yeah.
So, you know, so if you start posing and practicing, like right from the start, you should do it right. If you don't have the eye for yourself, get someone to help you. Because if you practice something wrong, it's the same with like training. If you have some like exercises where your execution is like terrible, but you do it in this terrible way. You've been doing it for 4 years, and then someone tries to switch everything around. It's going to be even harder than when you just try to get it right from the start. That's one thing. I mean, the tan sometimes. So if you've never done it, probably I would recommend to just use the service that's there, even though it costs a little bit more than doing it yourself.
Yeah.
You don't want to put all that work in and then be like, oh, I'm going to save $100 on the tan and do it myself. And then like all your work won't pay off because you look like crap. I see a lot of people eating too much and like unnecessarily much, or just totally at this like last second they can't hold it together anymore and they stop eating all kinds of stuff because they think they got to fill out or whatever they're going to tell themselves, or, oh, now it's not going to matter, it's not going to affect me, and they start eating. And or especially when they're backstage already, they start eating just randomly, like all their rice cakes with peanut butter and all that stuff. I mean, at that point, maybe it's not going to damage something, but I'm like, I see all these people there, and I'm like, this is not measured. This is just randomly stuffing stuff in you, you know?
Right. I think I mean, obviously some people will feel like maybe it doesn't matter, but I think it, in my personal opinion, if you really care about your show, it's better to be safe than sorry, and err on the side of caution, because obviously if you're doing something where you can consume a food that you haven't been consuming regularly or whatever, the last thing you want is for it to back up your digestion.
Yeah.
The moment it does that too, you know, you're going to have extra water retention on the outside of your abs, and by the time you do that, that's docking so many placements.
There's another big one I forgot about. Eating no fiber, thinking, oh, I have to eat easy digestible foods to fill out, and I eat no fiber and I don't drink, and people do that, and then it's just you just won't get out. Like everything is in your stomach, won't digest. Just got a huge ball. It's hurting. You
not
can't
hydrated.
Shit.
Can't shit. Yeah.
And you think like, I was so clever. I'm dehydrating and I'm filling up at the same time. So I eat easy to digest food, but it's just sitting in your stomach, and your stomach is horrible and your stomach is fat. And it happens rather to open guys usually because they load more. Carb load more, but that's terrible. And those people use diuretics, and when you use diuretics, you don't have to stop drinking. Like the diuretics will do the job. So usually you should not be like over drinking or drinking more than the day before. So usually you would taper down a little bit. If you, let's say just a number, you drank 6 liters on the day before, and then on the day where you're still carb loading one day out, you take a diuretic at some point and you drink 4 liters on that day. But some people would drink nothing and take a diuretic, and then they're just flat, can't shit. Everything comes together. Damn. So usually what I like is looking great 1 week out and keep everything the same.
Everything the same, including water,
if you look great like I would do tiny difference in water intake maybe. And dude, if you look really ready, super, like, if sometimes there's no need for a diuretic, it really depends. So if you look great 1 week out and you're like, this is how I could step on stage, and do the very, very same thing, and maybe just reduce the water a tiny bit day before the show and the day off.
You're saying depends on the athlete.
It always depends on the athlete.
Yeah, always, for sure.
Oh yeah, that's one thing I see sometimes. It's like people writing or receiving plans for 4 months. I'm like, that's a wizard, your coach. Like, how does he know? And also way too early, a lot of people introduce like orals. What
do you think is way too early?
Like 8 weeks. Like, why? You don't, you could, like, if it's like, oh, I need stronger drugs, you could up any like injectable too. It's not like the oral is like some magic form that's more synergistic or something like that. And your liver is your detoxing organ. It has to run perfectly. It metabolizes fat too. Like, you want that healthy, and I don't see why. And it's like Winstrol or something. I mean, the active life is like 6, maybe like 24 hours or something. So, like, you tell me that needs 8 weeks to work. It works immediately. And there's some orals that, like Winstrol, that have an effect that alter aldosterone and corticosterone, so they would make you a little drier because you excrete a little more sodium. Right. There's not many orals or any steroids that can do that. So I see why people use it, but it's not like you need the Winstrol to take it for weeks, so it has that effect. That effect is pretty immediate. So you could take that a week out. Also,
Really?
like some people use a Superdrol for.
You don't think it would be beneficial to at least have a few more weeks in there to like increase the cosmetic effect that builds up as you're continuing to take Winstrol, even if it's just 4 weeks?
And some people also take Superdrol for cosmetic reasons, because that's like super harsh on your liver, but it works right away. And you could do that 4 days before. You know, maybe you want to do it and test it out first at some point if you've never taken it, just to see what your body how your body reacts on that. But yeah, I think it's way too early for a lot of people. And then a lot of people also, like,
But
not everyone's like that. Go ahead.
I'm assuming, just to play devil's advocate, and so people kind of understand better, like the conversation and like where you're coming from. But I'm assuming you're saying, assuming that if you have the ability to take other compounds that aren't orals, then
Yeah.
Because otherwise, I'm thinking like if someone wasn't going to take an injectable to take the place of what they would say Winstrol for 6 weeks, I do still feel like there would be a benefit to the cosmetic effect that you would gain from being on a Winstrol cycle like 6 weeks in by the time you stepped on stage. Kind of the same thing like if you take Masteron or like Mass Prop, like you're not going to look the same 1 week in versus like, I don't know, 6 weeks in or 8 weeks in.
Yeah, but is that because you're going to lose more weight and get shredded anyways? Or is it the Masteron?
I think there's a cosmetic effect.
Yeah, but how fast is that cosmetic effect? I think it's pretty immediate if you have a propionate. And I would, like, obviously you have to run some compounds anyways. So the Masteron is usually in anyways, way earlier than just before the show. Right. But I think you could get crazy damn shredded and have probably the sickest physique you've ever had just on test and trend. You can probably look just as good. Yeah. And just as trend. Because I think the craziest real cosmetic effect this trend gives you. And I would personally, I wouldn't tell anyone not to run Masteron with it if you're doing that anyways, because of the cosmetic effect of it, and even the synergistic effect to counteract the nandrolone a little bit, have DHT in there, estrogenic effects from nandrolones, and it also will help your testosterone free upload through by way of DHT, so it will lower your SHBG, and you have more free test. But so if you have no money, test and trend, you can win shows. If you have all the money, obviously, like you would do test trend Masteron. Do you really need an oral? Probably not. You want to win, so you will still probably take it because it could give you 2-3%, but you don't have to take it like anywhere close to as as early as most of the people are taking it. And then also people got way more intelligent about it too, as there's so many pros doing like show after show after show. Imagine they start with those compounds 8-10 weeks before the first show. Like, do they want to run that for 26 weeks? If they do multiple shows, like they have to do a break, or they just get clever about it and like, okay, where does it really count? How long does it take that the effects set in, and then be clever about it. And like the later you use it, the better your health is going to be after the show. And if it really doesn't do much or anything so early out, I'll save on my health. You could get a rebound better. You might not have to, like, I would do blood work right after And if your blood work's fine, you might do way more after your show and don't have to get off or TRT after your show because you're way healthier. Because all the orals, like that's the worst on your lipids, you know, especially like Winstrol and stuff. Superol would be even worse. But, you know, yeah. So, the bodybuilding is also a lot on managing your health because, you know, some people burn out fast.
Yeah.
Like I saw Roman Fritz on a podcast. You know Roman? He's a German guy, was 14th at the Olympia, always super shredded. And he said he had a really talented friend. And he was training with the guy, so he knows exactly what he took. And he said that guy took 50 5 milligram D-balls a day. So 250 milligrams of D-ball a day. And the guy got liver tumors. And he had to stop bodybuilding. And on powerlifting shows where like he did powerlifting, he would double it. 500 D-ball a day. Like, did he have like nipples out of stone? Probably cut out. the AI he must be taking. I don't know. I don't know how that works, but that's what he said. I believe him.
Jesus.
And you know, people go nuts. And if you go that nuts, I mean, everyone reacts differently. Some people can take way more. But yeah, it's you have to get the most out of not the least, but the least harmful. Let's say
that's really only solely the purpose for my podcast. Is I just think that I think it would be wise if we just I'm seeing a lot of like content these days where gear and steroids is glorified. And having been in the social media space myself and dealing with a lot of that, and then also being one person that has undergone a negative experience related to jumping on steroids for the first time, jumping on orals and not even a test base when I first started and got my pro card, it just honestly incurred like a cascade of events that was just so non-conducive to my health and my mental health. And if anyone can get some good information before they start, that's all I hope. Like, I just hope that they could be mindful of their health and longevity before it's too late, you know, before they decide to
I think
pull the trigger.
I could give one advice to everyone out there. If you think of doing it, like, get your information, as you said. But for example, now there's this big trend, right? So every kid's on tren, but the kids don't know anything. Like, nandrolones are neurotoxic, and tren especially. So, and tren is a nandrolone. So that's a family of steroid derivatives. So there's like testosterone derivatives, DHT, and nandrolones. And tren is one of those, and that's very neurotoxic. It's even linked to Alzheimer's. Like, there's a protein that's elevated when you take it in your brain, and this protein is linked to Alzheimer's. So linked is a term that they use in science when they say we see a relation, we see a correlation, but we don't really know if it's a direct relation.
Or a causation, right?
Yeah, exact causation. So we don't know for sure that that's going to happen, but it looks very much so from the data when you look at, okay, this gets elevated when you take this. This seems to be constant throughout a lot of people, so there's a link. Doesn't mean it's the actual cause, but but it definitely has neurological effects, 100%. You see like people on tren also doing weird shit and getting very aggressive, or on halo testing, which a lot of people use before the show, which does not much from muscle building. Actually, it's more like an make you aggressive drug, so you're stronger. That's why powerlifters use it a lot. So that's purely for strength. So when you're more aggressive, maybe it just raises your adrenaline. I haven't really looked into why that is. Maybe that's the reason. So people on tren and halo testing sometimes do crazy stuff. But personally, I think it's always just an exaggeration of your personality anyways. I think anyone who's like super calm and starts taking steroids, it's not going to turn into some, stabbing monster that's going to kill people, or just going to start hurting or hitting his girlfriend or something like that. But if you're already like an aggressive guy, am I going to, just tip it over and you get like too aggressive?
Yeah.
And, I don't know. It really has changed. Like, maybe it's also the role models. Like when I came up, there was like Jeff Seid, and there was Matt Ogus, and we had in Germany, natural bodybuilding was always very big, and we still have really good natural bodybuilders. And like I was like, no way I'm ever going to take steroids, And you see all these guys that are supposedly natty, and I think even though some might not be, most of them have, or like all of them have bodies that with the right genes you can achieve. Obviously not people always don't get it. Not because he can do it naturally doesn't mean like you can do it naturally, because you don't have his genes. Like I always go back to,
or maybe you could, but it just takes like 10 years of getting your physique to a point where it's comfortable and around that, and then you do one like prep cut where you get really, really lean and have a photo shoot and have all these pictures like these guys do. Yeah. Like a lot of people when they look at Jeff and a lot of these top athletes, they're looking at their pictures when they were like, walking the streets with a bunch of like their bros in the tiny little short shorts, like flexing around girls or just like anything like that, or even on stage. These are when they're at their absolute peak. How short is their peak going to be? It's going to be really short. These people are walking around like that year round, like Jeff took like how long of an off season for this natural show recently. So I think people kind of discount that too.
Yeah, that's true. It's not shown that much, but I always, the people that always say, oh, that's not natural and no way he's natural. I'm like, but you guys all believe Ronnie Coleman when he said he turned pro naturally. I do believe him. Like in the beginning of the 90s, and he looks better than all the guys you say can't possibly be natural, but he can. So you're saying no one could ever have anywhere close to as good genetics as Ronnie? Like, why not? Why can't there someone have like 80% as good genetics as Ronnie Coleman? Why you say that's a lie? 100%. But Ronnie was not lying. I'm like, I don't know what's that. Like, why can't they just believe in some exceptional human abilities and potential? Is it just to feel good? Because I have never seen anyone who's really really huge or really successful that's always saying, oh, you're not natty. I only see smaller guys that are themselves mostly natty and don't look as good as the guy that claims to be natty and looks pretty good. Those are always the guys that say, oh, he's not natty. Or the guys that are on steroids and still don't look like they're on steroids. They would also say he's not natty. But it's never someone who's successful themselves or who's good themselves.
It's hard to believe sometimes, but we just never know, I like to give the benefit of the doubt and believe it, but I can understand other people's perspective, especially if, like, say, you just don't have the genetics to get there, or you don't have the resources, or you're just never going to start gear or anything too. I mean, I can understand how that can be really hard to believe somebody like Ronnie Coleman was natty when he turned pro. Because that guy looked like a freaking monster, dude.
Yeah, but
you never know.
I think I could have never looked anywhere close to the guy I just had on my podcast. He's a Goldschirm, Jacob O'Neill. He won the Ben Weider Naturals overall. I think I could never look like him naturally, never. But that doesn't mean he couldn't. And I've seen, like, he's insanely strong. And I would also think if he would do gear, why would he do that little to almost do no progress while he's lifting like a mad person, super consistent, for years, always looks the same, like a little better. Why would he, if he gets on gear, get on so little that he just can barely get away with being natty? Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you be like, okay, I'm on gear now. Like, I'm on gear. So let's, like, no one's like, I'm doing 300 milligrams of test for life. Because no one's doing that. Why? I don't get it. Like, why would someone do that and then claim natural? I see that a lot of people, I think, were on gear before, get off, then claim natural, do natural shows. So I see that happening, and that's really sad. And I recently looked at the Hall of Shame from the INBA. It's so funny which people are on there, not calling anyone out, but it's kind of funny who tried in the past to cheat the natties. Oh my God, these guys, like they're like IFBB pros now and really big, and like, why did you do that?
If you feel like any of the medications that we spoke about today may benefit you, such as BPC 157, GH secretagogues such as Tesamorelin, IGF-1, oxandrolone troche, semaglutide, then you can obtain these from Transcend HRT, and the link for that will be in the bio. If you feel like you're experiencing symptoms of low testosterone, such as depression, anxiety, lack of motivation, as well as lack of sex drive, then you can get this checked out as well by getting your blood work done at Transcend, and they will provide you expert medical analysis. Transcend HRT has worked with many professional bodybuilders and pro athletes, such as Thor Bjornsson, Phil Heath, and Jeremy Buendia. And if you feel like this podcast has any relevancy to you, I do believe that this clinic will provide of great benefit to you as well.
I don't know, but with a beard, he totally looks like an Arab.
Definitely the guy I saw, though, for sure.
Right?
Shape looks crazy.
Jesus.
Tiny waist, super classic.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can't wait to get huge. Oh, all right. Anyways, so I had a question for you because you were talking about tren earlier, and I personally think tren should never be used if it can, but I know also that it does tend to give the best cosmetic effect. So my plan was for myself was personally never to do tren, or at least avoid it at all costs. And then I talked to Larry Wheels. We were just having a discussion about bodybuilding and stuff, and then I told him. And then he was like, honestly, though, I really, really think that even for just 1 week, you put in tren, even if it's just 1 or 2 weeks, because he said that he put it in for just 1 week when he was doing his powerlifting competition, made a world's of difference when he was going for his PR. And I believe he said the same thing with his bodybuilding show, and just putting in for just 1 week. And the cosmetic effect was pretty drastic, he said, for himself at least. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Confirms my former statements, I guess.
Right.
I think it would depend on the dose, but yeah, like that can change things, and it's an acetate works right away. Also acetate, like I'm not saying take tren, but if you take an acetate, please take it every day. So it's more stable. Because people love to do everything Monday, Wednesday, Friday. They disregard that the week has 7 days. They're like, no, it has 6. So there's like always one day where it's like, and if you take tren Monday, Wednesday, Friday and acetate, like, and then you have a 3-day break, I mean, still, you won't be like, I mean, you won't feel it probably, but it's not stable, so I would just do it every day.
I also have a coach that I also know a coach that prefers to take out all injectables, including tren, at least a week before. What are your thoughts about that?
I don't like it, because I think that's a drastic change, and let's say you look great on Sunday, you take everything out, and then you lose your fullness or whatever, you look like crap, or you look different the week after, and you didn't want to look different. So if you have experience with doing that and it worked for you, okay. If you don't, I wouldn't do it. People usually do it because they don't want to get an abscess, or they don't want that people see on stage injection sites or something.
Yeah.
Or something to mess up.
I think one of the biggest reasons was the oil. And then also if there is any mental effects that are exacerbating your bad mental health going into the show of peak week, that's exacerbated by tren. That's another reason.
Yeah. If you take a lot and like you have some big issues anyways, but then maybe you shouldn't take it right away. So what I was also expecting you to ask is how to replace tren without taking tren. And I would say either high dose primobolan, like very high dose, or maybe DHB would be an option.
Wouldn't you consider DHB still pretty dangerous?
DHB, dihydroboldenone. No. What do you mean, like in which regard dangerous?
I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking about compounds that I would personally avoid.
Why would you?
I don't know too much though about DHB.
So
I've never taken it
DHB,
myself.
like if you take EQ, 5 to 15%, so a little individual will convert into DHB. It's dihydroboldenone. So if you take EQ, you have some DHB in you. Some people take high doses of EQ, so they're already technically at, and like say, if you take a gram of EQ, you're technically at 150 milligrams of DHB. The DHB is what I would say more toxic than primobolan for sure, but you can also run less. But what I just heard on one podcast with the anabolic doc, which I've never heard before anywhere, he had a chemist on, and that chemist said that DHB can influence your sodium and make you hold more water. So that would be a no-no. So you would have to make sure that it doesn't do that. So but he also at high dosages. I don't know to which extent. But like I said, if you look great a week out, I personally would like to not change anything. If you have to change anything due to your mental health, you do it, change it, but then change it way earlier, I would say. Because I like to just be on whatever I'm on a week out and cruise in and not do too many drastic things. So, or only things that you're super sure of that work, you know. But yeah, if you take everything out, you're definitely going to look drier. That's sure. You're not going to, unless you screw up eating wise, but you definitely rather look drier. So if you're way too fat, well, then you're way too fat.
Right.
But yeah. If you're like a water buffalo type of guy and you think it's just water,
maybe that could
make a difference. Also, a lot of people keep a lot of pros, there's the open guys. They're always so afraid to lose muscle or don't look full. And then they keep their GH high and run it into the show. And yeah.
What do you say?
I would say get off the GH, to get rid of the water that you're probably holding from it. But they're afraid, then I'm going to look too stringy. But you've seen for example, Emir Omeragic was second at the Cali Pro, and he dropped 3 kilos or so, 7 pounds from the New York Pro, where he placed 9th, and then he got second, and he beat some guys that were in front of him.
Wow.
And he was just the hardest guy. He was a mega hard. If you're not super skinny, you have to be there's very few people where I would say rather come full than hard. It's most of the times I'm rather come hard than full. I mean, it depends. Always, there's no one recipe. If people want, if anyone tells you this is the way to do it, for everyone, it's not the way, but that's what people want. That's why people sell so much better that are radical, like the Liver King or these keto diet guys or vegans, because they're this is the way for everyone, and they have the recipe for everyone, and this is the holy grail, and people love to have the holy grail, yeah, I'll take it. So the keto guys, if you're well, it depends, it depends, it's not easy. So they don't want to hear it.
For your clients personally, do you prefer to have them run GH up till the show or take it out?
No, take it out.
Take it out for a majority or for all?
I've never not taken it out.
Okay.
I yet have to see where I would keep it in.
What's your reasoning for that? Is it simply just to make sure they don't come in watery or they come in dry?
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the people lose 5 pounds.
Damn. 5 pounds?
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot.
I mean, it depends on the dosage.
Right.
Like if you're on like 3-4 units, 3-4 units might be like 3 pounds or so. But there's people running 8 units. But if you run that high, you have to really control your blood sugar. Like a lot of people, they measure their GH even wrong, and they always get sleepy. And I'm like, do you know how much you take?
Yeah.
Are you sure? Because some people are like, well, it says 5 milligrams, so it's 5 units, right? Oh, no, it's like 18.
Right. How long do you pull it out before the show?
Mostly like 7 to 10 days.
Okay. Yeah, that seems about.
Because I also want to, you could maybe pull it later, but I want to see it, like, to be able to adjust, to have enough time to adjust. Because if you pull it out, like, let's say you think, he needs to be a little drier, but it's probably just the GH. And if you pull it out and then see, it's not only the GH, he has to keep going. If you have 7 days, you might be able to still do something. But if you time it on the day of the show and you're like, damn, it wasn't just water, there was a little fat here, you're like, well, now we can't do anything about it.
Yeah, right. Makes sense. What have you seen in regards to differences between, say, 1 IUs, 3 IUs, 16 IUs of GH?
I mean, most of the guys that run that much are way heavier, so they hold way more water, and they would lose way more water when they get off. Like a 300-pound guy can lose 20 pounds just getting off GH. Like 8-10 units gets off. Phew.
Wow.
Yeah, and then it's really hard. Like some people can't run that high GH. They have to take long-acting insulin with it because it affects your blood sugar sensitivity. And sometimes, things like metformin and berberine are not enough to keep it keep you insulin sensitive. So you utilize all the carbs, and a lot of people just take a bunch, don't care about everything. They eat carbs and they fall asleep right away, or like they drive somewhere and they almost crash because they start falling asleep. And that's kind of like you're pre-diabetic right now. And I also think that a lot of the roid bellies come from that, because I see a lot of people with these bellies too that don't do any bodybuilding, but they're all diabetic. It's like these bloated bellies. I guess it's also a lot of visceral fat, but I think it's also not managing GH well, making you diabetic, and then, yeah, that's an issue.
Do you see this with prep as well, or mostly through bulking cycles?
Yeah, mostly through bulking cycles, because you rather overfeed and you eat more carbs. In prep, it would always get a little better, of course.
Yeah.
But in off season, you have to be even more careful. And if you run GH, I would really try, to eat the right type of carbs, to really not overeat carbs, rather overeat a little bit protein. Just manage your blood sugar, like even get a monitor and stuff. If you're an open guy, you should have a blood sugar monitor. Because if you're an open guy, you're probably not just going to run 3 or 4 units like a classic guy can or should. I think should. But there's also classic guys that run 10. Like there's classic guys that run more than some open guys. It's not just because you're smaller, you're doing this. Especially because a lot want to catch up.
Right.
Or they want to go to the open at some point, or they just think it needs that much. Some people take way more than it needs. And especially like it's funny that even some people that have great genes take way more than they should. They don't even realize how good genes they have, that they don't need that much.
Right.
But vice
it could
versa.
be hurting them in the long run. Because it could be hurting them in the long run. But I guess,
always. Yeah.
Have you seen a lot of like physical drastic differences in your experiences working with like clients and other bodybuilders in, say, a classic physique competitor that uses 3 IUs versus like 10 IUs? Have you seen a difference in their physique, in how they are, how they act, in their shape, anything? It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, because some people look bubbly more than others anyways. There's so many individual things. Like there's people that they look rounder than me,
and they're natural. It's like, okay, maybe not that, but they're, for example, a little rounder than me. When I would be on, like when I was at my roundest on tren and full blown cycle just before competing or so, and then but still enough carbs. And there's like some other guy who's just on test or TRT, and he's like the bubble himself. Like some black guys are just, you know, like Michael Lockett. He goes to goal sometimes. I think he's off everything right now. He was a huge open guy. I think this guy is just like, you can't make up for these genes with anything.
Yeah.
So then saying, oh, it's the GH or it's not. Yeah, it's hard to say. I just see that everyone who's huge is running a lot. So, and I'm like, if
a lot is in
a lot, I would say is 6 and up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a lot.
Yeah. Everyone like, so I'm not trying, if I have someone like that, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. I'm like, that's what these guys always been doing, and they have been doing it. I'm not going to tell them to cut down. So I haven't experimented with that and told everyone, oh, you just need 2, and they were using 8 or something. And they probably wouldn't even have listened to me. Then they would just have gone to someone else. Because, everyone, unless you build them up from the ground, they come with some experience and some expectancy. And obviously, I'm trying always to be as responsible. But also, I know what this guy is willing to do to get where he wants to get to. And he kind of knows, at least already, what it takes. And then within that realm, I try to be as responsible as I can, and I want to see the blood work. And if I don't see him like showing me how healthy or unhealthy he is, I'm like, I don't want to have anyone dying on my watch, right? And that's not just because of me. It's like I care, like,
right.
And so I try. I still try to get the most out of the least, but within reason. Like if an open guy comes to you and you're like, oh, we go in off season and we take 500 tests and 4 units of GH, and like he's like, bro, like that's not going to do anything. So it's
Do you have any protocols for being risk averse or for being on top of your health and your markers?
I have a whole panel that I send out. I have a list of all the markers that I'm interested in, because usually you don't get them all unless you ask for them. Like, I don't know, maybe Titan has even like a bodybuilder panel. But I, like last time, the last few times I did it through my doctor, he was on my podcast too, Dr. Rand McLean. But before I did it with Titan, and I think, I'm going to do it again too, because it's actually cheaper. And I think I had to ask for 2 markers on top. So they had a pretty good panel already for men. But maybe they even already changed it and got like a bodybuilding standard panel. I would recommend them to do it. I'll check it. And if not, I'll reach out to them, because, I mean, why not? Right.
Yeah.
So I have that. There's a bunch of stuff. Like there's a bunch of stuff like that they usually don't test for, like some calcium score, some C-reactive protein, ApoB. I want to. There's a bunch of things that is usually not on it. I mean, there's more, but I can't think of it right now. Yeah. And there's a good German app too. I haven't seen one in English, and it's called Lab Results or something. And there's from A to Z, you can go on any marker, and you can look up if it's high and it's low, what does it mean? So even if you don't have a coach, this app is amazing. But I don't think there's an American one.
That would be nice.
Translated.
That would be
That's
heavy.
great. Like, then everyone like can just. I mean, everyone can Google, but no one does. I mean, it takes a little longer than just Googling a little bit. But this is a really great app, so I think that would be pretty successful.
That would be really cool. Maybe we should create one.
Yeah, let's do it.
There's this podcast, I can't remember which one it is. It's like one of the most the most recent ones that have to do with metabolic health that Andrew Cooperman had with another professor. Wish I remembered her name. I could look it up right now, but but she had like a good rundown about, I think like 30 or 50 minutes in, about like all the markers, and then like listed what like values that you want to like look for and you want to be within, and then her personal opinion as to like whether or not it was too high at a certain value. So if anyone's interested, like I feel like that podcast is pretty informative in regards to metabolic health. Yeah,
that's so true, because I didn't even think about that. Like if you were an athlete of any kind or a bodybuilder, the reference range does not always mean if you're out of the range that's concerning. Like, for example, with the liver enzymes, I mean, you probably had this tons of times on your podcast, but if your ALT and SLT are 80 and the range goes to 50 and you trained the day before, you're like so fine. You could look at your gamma GT or something and it's going to be low. And you're like, liver's fine, because they get elevated from oxidative stress. And I mean, let's say you run a marathon and you go to a doctor that's clueless and you test the next day and they're like, you're a liver failure. What are you doing? And they actually just ran a marathon. I'll just look. So right now I have my panel here. I also look on D-dimer because of the shot, the good old jab. So I want to see how people's D-dimer is, because there's a lot of blood clots that occurred from that shot. And I mean, especially bodybuilders are not really, probably more prone to blood clotting anyways. Yeah. So I want to make sure that that's in place. And then a lot of people take, it's called nettokinase to counteract that, but you have to take a lot. So like, I would say like 8,000 units a day, but I think it's damn cheap. I think like $15 for 4,000 units a day. So it would be like $30 a month for the 8,000 a week, a day, if you want to take that. I'm looking for stuff that I have on here, which is not that common. BUN, I think usually is on it. It was always on mine. SMA20, that's pretty rare. That's for like liver, kidney function. That's the ones that are not commonly on there anyways. On like if you order a comprehensive metabolic panel, that's usually what it's called. And then you say, I also want my estrogen and testosterone levels, and I want my calcium score, D-dimer, BUN, and C-reactive protein. So C-reactive protein is always pretty good to see if, for example, I mean, if your gear would be contaminated, your C-reactive protein would probably be high. If your C-reactive protein is low, you're pretty good. Probably don't have any heart issues too. Yeah. But the calcium score is there too. Yeah.
I remember More Plates, More Dates was mentioning he did I think he saw some blood work with someone who was taking like UGL gear or something, and his C-reactive protein was like way over 10 times like the original amount, something crazy drastic. So I think it was like 0.2 before, and then it was like something close to 10 or something crazy later. So but anyways, have you ever gone to the point where you've had to maybe do any like angiograms with a client? Anything that's any scans?
I don't think so. My wife. No, my wife has it's called mastocytosis. So that's kind of like, it looks like if it starts happening, if it's to a higher degree that she has it, it's genetic, and it looks like you have black moles and they kind of emerge from your skin.
Ooh.
And she doesn't have that, but she has rashes sometimes, and one time she barely could breathe, and she got all red, and she's carrying an EpiPen, and the thing was that it's triggered by histamine, so she has to eat low histamine foods, and the longer something stands, like the unfresher it is, like it accumulates histamine, so she has to eat super fresh.
Wow.
So all the meat we get, like she gets, into the fridge right away, and before she cooks it, she defrosts it and then cooks it. So yeah, it's like now like so much work to do. And she had some biopsy and even I'm missing the English word. Well, they put it in your spine to see some more like a biopsy. And that was like fortunately we have health insurance. That would have been expensive. Yeah, but that's like that's what she has to deal with, and she competes in bikini, so she has.
Wow,
that's tough.
Yeah, that is really tough, man. Jeez, reminds me of Michaela Peterson almost.
Yeah, right. She had to weird that she just eats meat. But that's also that's also kind of a problem again, because in that regard she's kind of like these drastic people, right? It worked for her, but does it mean it worked for everyone? No.
Yeah.
So I would always like point that out. Like if you're in a similar situation to her, like try it. You know, you have nothing to lose. But if you're anywhere else and you're healthy, you're normal, like don't do that. It's not healthy. It's not going to be, I mean, sure, you're going to lose weight because you're just eating meat. So it's really hard to overeat unless you eat like fatty bacon all day. But that's not going to be healthy.
Right.
Definitely not. And in her case, it was, but I bet she also ate really good meat. So like some people will be like, oh, I'll start eating meat, and they eat all kinds of shit meat. And she's in Canada and probably ate really organic stuff all the time. So, you know, but yeah, just look at who is saying what. And then it's like, does that apply to me? Same with studies. Like, are these people in the studies somehow somewhere close to where I am? Or are these 80-year-olds that have never lifted a finger? And this stuff is tested on them, and then you think you can apply that outcome to yourself as like a 20-year-old or something? That probably not. So that's like, I don't know. That's always so weird that people just take over something that worked for someone who's not even close to health-wise, age-wise, athletically to where you are, but you think the same is going to happen. It's kind of wild.
That's the thing that I love about bodybuilding is there's just so many differences. There's so many variances, and it's just like you're playing a game. The sad part is it's just a dangerous game, and we're all fucking crazy competitors. But I guess that's what makes things thrilling.
But you know, we can play it with caution and survey everything, monitor everything. Do blood work and stuff. Blood work's not the holy grail, of course not. But you can also, if you're just, you know, very concerned, do scans, do all kinds of things. But, you know, on average, I mean, if you do bodybuilding with a conscience or a very responsible coach that's going to check on you, you're probably still healthier than 99.5% of the rest of America. Dude, this morning, I just went and
Steve said the same thing.
Bought some bananas. And I was...
Take a shot, Steve.
I had to... Vigorous Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool guy. I had to just film what the guy in front of me bought. Because I'm like I never look... You know, I mostly Instacart. So I don't see that. And I'm like, this guy's actually poisoning himself. Like, I would never eat that. It was just like chocolate bar shit, like brownies. Brownies was probably even the best. And like only just packaged crap. Like the best thing was some sugary yogurt mix blend. And I'm like, that's what you really eat that? And like, you really eat that? Like, I'm like, I would rather puke it out again. Like, I rather, and it's like, shit, I got poison in me. Like, let's get it out somehow. Like, for real. Like, I'm not, I don't want to, what's it called? Promote bulimia. But this guy should, like, oh my God. And the people are poisoning themselves here. It's bad. So, like, the average American is so unhealthy. Like, and then they point at people that and claim, oh, steroids are bad. And you're like, bro, like, look at your plate. Like, this is really bad what you're doing. And then they even drink beer on top, don't sleep. Like, it gets worse than what they don't move. Like, this is so, like, all they doing is so bad. Like besides, like, going on tren year round, you have to do a lot, you know, from like a bodybuilding lifestyle to be just as bad. Really a lot. Yeah.
I mean, at least hopefully, yeah, right. Like you said, considering that you're doing, you know, the repercussions, taking the safety measures, right? Because there is also those the bodybuilders that eat giant bowls of cereal and take tren year round. That's
some sulik or what?
I'm sure he's going to be okay.
Chocolate milk. Maybe when he gets older.
He's super young too right now. Yeah. So I'm hoping the best for him.
I think Fuad Abiat will take care of that. He'll tell him probably like, dude, like if you eat your shit, I want to see blood work every 3 months at least. And if that's not good, you know, change it. We both need you. Like I want to make money off you, and you want to keep making money. So let's keep you healthy. I think he's going to be his kind of like bodybuilding dad, I guess. He has good people around him.
Yeah.
And I think he also starts listening. I think at the beginning he didn't really wanted to listen, just wanted to do his thing. But I think he starts listening. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
I mean, he's so young. So, I mean, weren't we all at that point at some point?
He can't get away with 20 too. Yeah.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Dude, yeah. I always think even like 5 years ago, I was like, dude, I was so dumb. I probably, in 5 years, I look back and I'm probably watching this. I'm like, oh my God. I can't say that.
Oh my God.
I'm already telling you I'm full of shit right now.
Right, no, for sure.
My 37-year-old self will tell you that my 32-year-old self is full of shit. But that's how it should be. Like, you don't want to be like, I'm the same guy like 20 years ago. I'm always thinking like I want to improve. I don't want to be the same. Like maybe from a standpoint of my morals and values, and I want to love myself for my actions and everything. But in terms of people telling you you're perfect the way you are, I'm like, no, I want to get better here and there and there and there. And I'll never be perfect. And I always want to improve. So
it's a hard balance to appreciate what you've accomplished, but also keep wanting to strive for more. I think that's the hardest thing. But if you can acquire the balance, I think that's the strongest place that we could be in. It's just like, you know, monks and a lot of Eastern religions, it's hard to find that balance, but that's like where your nirvana is.
Yeah, looking back helps so much, especially when you feel stuck or when you feel in a bad place, especially in bodybuilding. And when you look back and you look at old pictures or something, you're like, whoa, okay. I'm in the right direction, you know, and I achieved something. But when you're just in the moment, you'd be like, you'd be way more eager to not appreciate what you have. Yeah. Or when you look at like even my wife with this stuff that's happening to her with this disease and it's genetic, and like I'm so blessed. Like my digestion as well. Obviously, I do something for it, but other people they can't. Like they have no choice. They just have a gene that's bad, or you know, there's so many things that constantly go well, and you don't appreciate them because it's a set point. It's normal that they go well.
Given for
it's
you.
Just normal that your fridge is full. It's just like, but at one point when your fridge is not full anymore, you'd be like, shit, man.
Yeah,
it's actually such a gift.
Right.
Like I never had to worry about food all my life or watch food prices. Like I'm always watching food prices. I probably wouldn't have to, but it's, you know, there's a lot of things like that go so well, and I'm lucky. I don't know. I'm just always optimistic. I just love like waking up like, oh, it's a new day. Nice. I love mornings. I love my breakfast. You know, I just love what I do, and I can appreciate it for some reason. But unfortunately, I don't really know why. I mean, I wasn't, maybe because, and I think that's a big reason, is because I was brought up in a like great surrounding, loving parents. I think it's perfect, but I wasn't brought up in privilege, or like most of the kids, they had always a little more than I, but I was fine. I was doing great. I had best life, but I didn't have any abundance of anything. Like we didn't have much money, you know, we didn't have I didn't have all the other toys everyone had, or the cool clothing. So I didn't come from here, you know. I came from there, and now I'm just a little above. So I can appreciate everything more because I came from a little less.
Yep.
And that's way easier. I'm always thinking of when I have kids, I'm like, dude, if they have it too well, it's actually not that good. Like I need and probably I would think put them in sports. So they have to go through some adversity, maybe not being on the field, not playing, or getting into fights, and just, you know, not always being comfortable, because that's how you learn. Everyone who's been through something bad and has survived it and is feeling good about themselves in that moment, it's like, dude, so good that happened to me. I never want to miss that happening to me. It was the best thing ever, like that I had to go through this so I can appreciate way more what I have right now.
Right.
You never hear like, that was just pure shit. I wish it never happened to me. Almost never, right? So it's always a learning and always makes you better. And if it doesn't kill you, it usually makes you stronger.
Facts. Yeah. When I was a kid, super obese, was unfortunately suicidal, and didn't have any friends and was alone because I wasn't allowed to see people. And then when I was in college, freshman year, it was natural, but I was drinking pounds of beer, doing handle races at my fraternity because I was a pledge, and then also eating unlimited dining court cookies. So 10 years later, like that's a huge drastic difference. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Sulek just like 5 years later had a completely different change of lifestyle and diet, you know?
Yeah.
But
I've
now
seen
that
your
you reminded me,
transformation pictures, like I think that was a huge like reel one time. I think it was like 1 million views reel or so. Your transformation, or it was your transformation regular YouTube video. I saw it somewhere on YouTube, and yeah, you were chubby, and you looked damn good after. Yeah,
thanks, bro.
Yeah, man.
Appreciate that, man. But now you reminded me. I wanted to ask, what's the earliest memory that you have that is indicative of the bodybuilding career that you have today?
You mean where I thought I would go to where I am right now, or just like the first time I thought I want to become a bodybuilder? Or
yeah, first time you thought that you even thought about bodybuilding, and then
bodybuilding
don't really
in terms of competing, or just getting into getting a bodybuilder's body.
I am just curious about what your story is, just from the beginning.
Yeah, so
like what got you into bodybuilding, and then when did you start competing, and then what's the story behind like competing with Urs or coaching Urs, I guess?
It's funny. I moved to Berlin, and I always played soccer in Germany. And in Berlin, I didn't feel like playing soccer anymore. So I always liked good bodies. So I went to a gym, and because I could, you know, say whenever I want to train, I could be my own boss. And I had a trainer. He was there 3 times a week. I had time at that time. It was 25 euros a month, super cheap. And he was like a Dorian Yates fan, had like the same tattoo on his forearm. And I started lifting properly right away. Super slow motion Mensa training. And yeah, I liked it a lot. And he was already back then talking about competing. I didn't know back then right away. 6 years later, 6 or 5. So I competed naturally first. I won my first show after 11. Like that was my 11th show. So I wasn't that guy that was winning and then kept going. I just loved to do it. And when I lost, I wanted it even more. I'm coming back better. So, and then I won my pro card at my 20th show. And then I did like 10 pro shows. And I was always in the last third, sometimes in the middle. So, wasn't that successful. But at least I came in 10th at the New York Pro one time. That was cool. And Urs, I was already coaching people for a few years, mostly natural guys. But I was in the enhancing realm for like 2 years, and I was always like super curious and reading up, and you know, so I was very educated. And I took on Urs, and first he won the German Junior Nationals in the Natural Federation. And there's still videos on my bodybuilding YouTube account. You can see like my athlete Urs Kalecinski posing or something, and you'll find it. His posing when he was 18 was already like super good. And I just saw him on Instagram. I'm like, dude, you have friggin' talent. Like, let me train you. Let me coach you. I'll coach you. And he was like, all right, man. Like, I don't know why we clicked, but I think he kind of said he was following me anyways and kind of already considering that. Mm-hmm. And then, but that might not be true. I'm just kind of feeling that was kind of the way it went. And 1 year later, we start. So for the prep of the next year, we started getting on the juice, and he was 19, I think. So I was very responsible. I did have him take tren, not even clen.
So this is the first time he jumped on?
Yeah, not even T3. It was like, people would say, that's a girl cycle. But I'm like, I have a 19-year-old here who has huge potential. Why would I burn him out right away?
Yep.
Like, yes, I could give him everything on the planet. He wouldn't die, but I feel like his father. It's like, I'm responsible. He trusts me with this, like his doctor. So, and him, it was enough to turn pro. So there we go. But it was his third attempt. So he was in Hungary fourth, or third, and he was in London, was Hungary third and London fourth, I think, either way. And then he won the Iceland show and turned pro. And 1 week later, there was a pro show in Germany, which David Hoffman won. Second was Mike the Badass, Mike Sommerfield, who's really good right now. Like, I think he was fifth or sixth 1 year at the Olympia. And Urs was sixth place in his first pro show, severely underweight, and we beat Greg Doucette. Greg Doucette was 10th or 9th. And I already followed him back then in 2019, like 3,000 followers. But I recognized him, and we talked a bit. And we're always in contact a little bit here and there. I think he's afraid to come to Gold's Gym because Michael Hearn is there, and they have kind of beef. Michael Hearn always calls him the Hobbit. I don't know. I'm like, Greg, go to Gold's, come train. And I see him in LA, and he's training at some other gym. And like,
I ran into Greg like 4 weeks ago at Zoo. Yeah, because he was hanging out with Eric. They were doing that one. They were filming for the one fat guys versus fit guys Jubilee video. I don't know if you've seen that. Cool. Yeah, it's funny, bro.
That?
Yeah, that's just crazy.
God, this one guy is such an idiot.
Wait, which one?
Fresh and Fit. Oh my
Myron.
Oh my god! I mean, he says a lot of things that are true.
He's just very polarizing.
Like, there's some things are true,
blanket statements.
But he's he's just way too
true.
He has no empathy, none.
I mean, I feel like he's trying to go off his whole like dark triad traits that women are aroused by, right? Narcissism and Machiavellianism, and I feel like that's built into his personality now as a fresh and fit podcast
He's just
host.
Too black and white. Yeah. You can't see. There's people that are addicted, and almost everyone's addicted to something, right? Like, I'm addicted to coffee. I'm not really addicted. I can stop. I've done it on and off. Maybe you can say I'm addicted because I relapse.
Headaches, right?
Maybe you can say I'm addicted because I relapse. But all of us have something. Like, people are smoking weed, sugar, whatever. And then being there and saying, "Oh, it's so easy," and you have to really see. I see it as an addiction. Those people all know they shouldn't do what they're doing, but they're just addicted. They can't stop themselves. That's like that's a mental thing, and that's not like, oh, it's easy because it's easy for me. You don't have this addiction in your head. You don't have this wiring.
Sometimes it's like literally physiological, right?
That could even a little bit be
sick. So, I actually got sick off of a creative addiction. I was coming off, and I got like a really high fever. I was like throwing up. Worst.
That showed me how much I'm not an addict, because I always thought like, oh shit, like maybe I'm addicted. Like maybe I could never get off steroids, or like, totally like, I'm like, maybe I could never do that. Maybe I'm addicted. Maybe if I stop competing, I'll still want to do it. But then I went off for half a year, and I was bike riding, and no problem. Like I even went off naturally, like just Tonkat and stuff, and it worked, and I felt fine and everything. And then I realized I'm not addicted. And I had a Kratom sponsor. I took a lot of Kratom. Like these 3X shots, I took 3 a day. That's pretty much.
Do you know how much milligrams in each? Or no? Not remember.
I think the regular dose is 75. Can that be?
75 milligrams?
75? Or is it more? Or is it 1,250?
1,250 milligrams sounds more like it.
I think that's that.
It would be 1.25 grams.
And then they had 75 milligrams of something else in it.
I was taking up to 14 grams in a day at one point.
Okay, for me, then it was more like 12.
Don't do that.
But for me, then was 12.
Damn.
But dude, I stopped from one day to the other.
No issues?
Nothing.
No, that's awesome.
I think I'm freaking lucky. Like, because I don't blame anyone for addictions. I know, like, stuff can be like tempting, and everyone has some, and I give into my addictions all the time. But I think most of the time I have the willpower, or I know the trigger, how to stop it. Most of the times you kind of slowly have to replace it. I feel that's always the best thing. You slowly replace it. If you're addicted to food, I would say get a ritual that you do after your meals that you won't keep eating, like drinking a coffee or some ritual. So if you do that, it's kind of like we ended the eating now.
Right. I noticed a 10-minute walk tends to help.
Or that.
Not only just with, all the other things, digestion, insulin.
So, that can help with that too. Or if it's something else, replace it with something that's of a lesser evil. Some practice or something to drink or something. And that, I think, is always the best approach. Or you have to have a goal so big that is going to need you to stop doing what you're doing. So maybe you can find a goal that's so big, even if maybe you become a father, and you're like, I have a child now.
Yeah, it's a
I have
pretty
to
big
stop.
Right.
I think a lot of people that become fathers are changing stuff because of that.
I think so too. I think when a lot of people become fathers, obviously not everybody, but if you have a certain amount of love for your kid, that thing is overpowering. Yeah. That thing is empowering, honestly. So I think it can be a beautiful thing to change and become better for.
I think everything becomes meaningless when you have a child. You be like, bodybuilding? Really? I have a child. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see what happens with Chris Bumstead in the next few years.
I think he said something that in that regard, like in that direction, that he's like
thinking about it.
I don't know if I should.
Maybe thinking about it, right?
He's thinking about, like, I think he's even thinking about not doing this Olympia. I mean, he said he started the prep, but he said that somewhere. I heard that, and I could see this one being his last one. Definitely. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to do it anyways anymore. And if you don't have the drive, it's really hard.
Oh yeah,
you can't do it. Like he can do it by pressure.
Like, it's amazing. It's freaking amazing that he's gone there. And I could see how, if I were ever to hypothetically win the Olympia, I wouldn't want to keep going. But doing anything for 6 years straight, anything, you get tired. Anything, no matter what it is. So, and not to mention just how draining and how much motivation is required just to compete at the Olympia stage alone, like, and then have a kid. It is pretty crazy. Yeah. The pressure on his shoulders, I'm sure. So whatever he does though, I support it. He's going to be amazing, and he's still a great role model for sure. I want to ask, cause we have maybe 5 minutes or so, but there's a few questions that I was kind of curious about. I saw that you found Arnold Schwarzenegger's first cycle ever.
Yeah.
What was that?
That was, so his old trainer, Kurt Manuel, he did an interview on the phone, but also one on camera in German. And he told the guy that Arnold took, or he kind of prescribed it to Arnold. It was 100 milligrams of Deca a week, which does nothing, basically. Not really. But then they took 15 milligrams of Dianabol a day. So 3 5-milligram tablets.
It's a very small amount.
Yeah.
Well, respective to the day.
And but that was when he was 15.
Oh, yeah. Shit.
Yeah. And Deca just came out a year before. It was super fresh.
Damn, 15?
But I think they didn't know at all what that was doing to your body. that this was suppress you, they didn't do PCT. They went 3 months off, on.
How did he do it then? Like, how did he just freaking keep building muscle again?
You mean like not losing everything when he was off?
Yeah.
I think it's also a lot of mental, because he didn't know what would happen. If you know you're going to get weak or your testosterone is suppressed, that does something to you too. Like placebo is real.
Yeah,
but,
I believe that.
And
But there
also
had to be something else.
Also, he claims 3 months off, 3 months on, but Deca is such a long ester that it was more like 4-2, and he was 15, and they didn't say that he kept going the same forever.
Yeah, I could have done something else.
Yeah, and maybe Arnold after a while found out where to get the drugs himself and didn't get them from the coach, and then he was just like doing it himself, or keep doing a little Deca, or I don't know. So, but like when he was 19, this video where he's pumping in the garden, you know that one? He's like in a garden and pumping up, and he was like swole, like full in 19. I was like, never ever is that natural. Now I'm the guy, but I don't think so.
What are the craziest stacks that you've ever heard of? That one stack you told me about the D-ball, that's freaking crazy already by itself.
Yeah, that's nuts. Maybe, honestly, maybe that's even the craziest. But I think the craziest cycle, also because of the time it was in, is Pete Gronkowski. He was with Ed Connor's manager, owner of Gold's Gym from, I think, 81 to 99 or so. And he was a competitor himself. And he stated what he does. You can find it on YouTube. Pete Grimkowski, that's how you write it. So Pete Grimkowski, and he took a few bottles of orals a day and 9 injections a day, and the bottles were like probably 2 and 5 milligrams, but it was still a shit ton. And he said something like he was off and like little chubby 210 or something like that. And then he competed at shredded 250.
Oh my God.
Like it was like kind of like he put on 40 pounds and got shredded at the same time.
What?
Yeah. Maybe not like this 8 shredded, but pretty decent, like probably 8% or something. So that was nuts, bro. And obviously the Boston Lloyd cycle. So he was on my podcast too, on my bodybuilding channel when I did Zoom podcasts way back. And I asked him for his craziest cycle, and I don't quite remember what it was, but it was definitely over a gram of tren, over a gram of basically everything, and then orals on top, and like nuts. But I heard of this guy, and I'm going to invite him to my podcast too. I already did, and he already said he would come when he's in LA. Chase Irons.
Oh yeah,
and I think he was talking also with Roman on the podcast, on his podcast. He was like, I'm thinking of taking 5 grams of test. Like he likes 2.5, but now he's heard of a bunch of people taking 5. He's thinking of
heard of a bunch of people taking 5.
Yeah. So they talk they talk in vials a week. So how much test do you take? 1 vial a week. That's their measure. Not like how many milligrams, how many vials a week.
Jesus Christ, dude.
Put that all that stuff, man.
Who's taking 5 grams?
Dude, guys that think it needs 5 grams. I don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
I had a podcast with Ziegler Monster, and he was discussing how for him personally, when he noticed he was on 1.2 grams total of gear, was no difference in how much the speed of progress he was gaining in his off season versus 2.4 grams. So he doubled his total gear use, and he didn't notice any change in progress. He still progressed at the same rate.
It depends on the drugs, though.
It does depend.
If you're on 2.4,
it was including test and
it's Primo and Masteron, and you're on 1.2 and you're on Tren.
No, I think it was. I think
same.
I think it was a constant.
Same drugs, but okay.
Drugs were a constant.
Yeah.
I believe he just decided to experiment with doubling the dose, and he didn't notice a difference. I think
you could argue that he would have had a plateau if he wouldn't have increased it. So his gains were constant, but that's what kept them constant. You could argue that way. I'm just playing devil's advocate.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess you could. I do remember him discussing, well, based off of his story is what it sounded like. There wasn't a plateau, but you know, I guess there's just so many variables, so you never know.
Yeah.
But I just hate to believe that. Like, I don't like, I'm not trying to manipulate conversations. I want people to listen to these conversations as it is and take the value as it is. But I would hate to be the facilitator of something where people will start taking 5 grams of test.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I just, that honestly just sounds ridiculous to me.
How
for
much
any purpose,
AI?
unless you're,
I'm sensitive to gyno. I would have to eat AI like candy, bro. I don't even know if you can take that much AI. I don't know what would happen. I don't know. I think a gyno for me would be inevitable. I would have to like take a tab of letrozole every meal. I don't know. That sounds nuts.
Yeah.
Like if anyone is gonna try that, at least slowly taper up. Don't start taking 5.
definitely
Like, even if you want to take 5 at some point and you're listening to this, taper up. At least give yourself time to taper up, because you'll see early on probably that you're like, okay, now I'm good. Yeah.
Even though test may be the best compound, I still think you guys should just not take 5 grams of test.
Yeah.
We heard the D-ball story. We don't want tumors anywhere. But all right. What about craziest preps you've ever heard of? Just like prep protocols, cardio, food, training.
The craziest is, I think, Roman Fritz in terms of food, because he's eating like 900 grams of carbs on a low day.
Oh, wow.
So, but this guy trains twice a day, which, I mean, you can't burn that much. If you're a normal person, like, your metabolism won't be that fast. In terms of, I mean, yeah, Boston Light Cycle again, and Pete Gronkowski, just the craziest. But I've seen a bunch of pros taking over a gram of tren. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like a gram of master, like basically a gram of everything. So gram of test, gram of tren, gram of equipoise too. And like dieting down, a gram of test. Like at the end, they would taper down the test. The stupidest thing I heard was taking Arimidex, Letrozole, and Nolvadex pre-contest. I'm like, bro, your estrogen and no testosterone.
What?
It was Santi Aragon. He said it on YouTube even. I'm like, bro, you take no testosterone anymore.
How many weeks?
One of these AIs, you're already at 0 estrogen anyways. Then you take another AI to be at negative estrogen, and then you block the estrogen that you don't even have. You like, I'm blocking. Where are they? Where are they coming? The estrogen buddies. Like, they're not coming, but we need to block them. It's like, it's so dumb.
That stuff's always interesting to me. I have heard though there's like beliefs in the bodybuilding industry, like that even Nolvadex might at least somehow help you look drier. Not sure why, but anecdotally with
women use that a lot.
So I can't really explain it either myself.
Yeah,
but. Do you know how many weeks out that he dropped the test, or how long he was off the test?
I don't want to say.
Maybe he was on a lot of tests, and then the estrogen was lowering. Maybe
I remember that. I just remember that I thought it was super dumb, and I don't think he was on that much test. Mm-hmm. I think it was at least 2 weeks, but I'm not 100% sure. But you can probably still look it up. Santi Aragon pre-contest cycle or something, and you see it on YouTube.
All right, gotcha. Man, I have a lot of questions that I want to keep asking you, but we're about out of time. But there were some Q&As, and I think I want to ask at least one of them, just so I like it when...
Yeah, it's always cool when you hear your questions in the podcast. Yeah. Nice. Like, my engagement is worth it, and people... Dude, it always
is.
It's nice when people can interact. It's cool about lives.
This is a complicated question, but Bora Kasad asks where to find good tests underground.
I can't tell you that, bro.
Yeah.
They asked the biggest guy in the gym who looks like his test is real.
Yeah, that's kind of hard. Honestly, I just my personal recommendation is try your best to find some pharmaceutical stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot of HRT clinics these days where you can get this test. Obviously, if you're trying to pin 5 grams, then you're probably not going to find enough. But I just don't think it's worth it. Otherwise,
get your wife or sister to transgender and take their testosterone.
Oh.
I'm kidding. They won't get married. I mean, it's not going to be much.
Wowo asks, what is the most drastic change you had to go through to get what you wanted body and goal wise?
the most drastic change. I don't think I mean, the most drastic change would going from, that's a boring answer, I'm sorry. It was from being natural to being unnatural. That's kind of drastic, but I didn't, like, I always started low, and if I went higher, I was like, now it's time a little bit. I was always very like afraid to do too much. So I never did like 0 to 5 grams or something like that. So the most drastic would be from unnatural to natural, from on the other way around. Yeah, that too. That was a drastic change, going naturally in.
Because you did that for cycling, right?
Yeah. So I had to lose weight anyways.
Stop
So
cycling
that's actually a dumb idea though, because if you get off, you don't want to undereat and do a shit ton of cardio. So that was not a clever idea, but I just wanted to ride my bike and lose like as much as I could. And I got really skinny, but you should not do that when you want to restore your test. So I almost, I was still a little under range at the end of the 6 months.
Damn.
But I felt great.
Even after PCTing too?
I did only PCT with natural compounds. I didn't do anything. I took like three shots of HCG. Yeah, I didn't I was like, okay, I don't want to take drugs anymore. And clomiphene and stuff is also not healthy. So I'm like,
bro,
let's fuck it.
You gotta at least take more HCG.
Yeah. No, but I felt fine too. So I didn't test myself right away, and I felt fine. I'm like, I'm probably fine. You know, if you feel like freaking depressed and everything, then you have low test.
For sure.
If you will notice anyways. Like if you feel like shit, your test will be low. But I feel fine. Like I was one time I had fake test in 2021. I don't know why anyone would fake test. It's so cheap. Whatever. I had fake test, and I went to get my blood work. I'm like, I didn't feel great.
Right.
But I still at squatting, I still improved. Like I did a really hardcore regimen. Everything else was kind of stagnating. I got a little more chubby. But I thought I'm on TRT, so I might lose some. And then I did a blood work, and it was 59 my test.
Nice.
59 is like female. Man.
Yeah, that's crazy though. All right, where can everybody find you?
Everywhere with Austrian Powers on YouTube. Better Overcome podcast, Instagram Overcome podcast. My personal one is Austrian Powers. And workout videos, Austrian Powers. I'm even on TikTok. I post the same there too. You don't have to follow me on TikTok if you're on Instagram. To be honest, it's just a copy. Yeah, that's basically it.
Hell yeah. Thank you for coming on, bro. That was awesome.
Yeah, man, it was good.
That was really fun.
Nice being here. Thanks. I feel honored to have been on.
Thanks, bro. I feel honored that you came on. So thanks, guys, again. Thanks for coming on. If you guys would like to support the podcast, which obviously helps me so much, then you can do so by rating us a 5-star on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere you find podcasts, and subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking the bell button, because that's what gets us better guests and awesome, informative, experienced people like Leo today.
Yeah.
So I hope you guys have a great day. Crush your lift. Eat all the foods. Get freaking huge. And
don't take 5 grams of test.
Don't take 5 grams of test. Love you guys. Peace.
Nice one.
Yeah. Sick.